That's right. Good morning, good morning, good morning. How you doing? Oh, Lord, it's another day and things just keep happening in this world, and how can you keep up with it? That is the question. I don't know, but I've been already out for my constitutional walk with Miss Penny this morning. She's had breakfast. She has a spa day today. I'm getting my hair done, but it's just a haircut. She gets the full treatment, and she'll come back and she'll just think she is the bomb, which she is. So there you go. Anyways, that's a little bit about what's happening in my life. This afternoon, we've got a great interview coming up. Karen Petit and Stephanie Bowen with the Issaquena DAR group will be here, and they will be talking about the upcoming Tea Party. That's right. So it's really a great event they're going to be doing. Not only is it a tea party, they have so many other aspects of this. So you're going to want to tune in, hear all about it. That's right. That's coming up today on Meet Me at the Diner. That'll be at 5 o'clock. Tomorrow on Meet Me at the Diner, Carrie Hoffman, who is the President and CEO of the Greenwood Promise, will be here. And then on Thursday afternoon, Michael Holcomb will be here. He's a comedian. That's right. He'll be in the studio. He's coming here with Greenwood Performing Arts in their comedy and cocktails or mocktails. So anyways, that's a little bit about what's coming up this week. Well, that is the schedule of the shows for this week. January's shaping up here on Meet Me at the Diner, you know. There's so much going on. There's always something to talk about and some issue. But anyways, let's talk about a couple of other things. I happened to be looking at quotes this morning, and I thought this one for a talk show host is an excellent one. One of the pervasive risks that we face in the information age is that even if the amount of knowledge in the world is increasing, the gap between what we know and what we think we know may be widening. No, I'd say it is widening. There is so much information hitting us from all different aspects all the time, whether it's, quote, legacy media, whether it's podcasters, whether it's live video, all these things hit us all the time. And I consider myself being pretty much involved in the news and what's happening, and I have a problem keeping up with it. So I don't know how we manage, and I don't know how we manage to get the truth, which is, of course, to me, a large part of it. Anyways, I thought that was an interesting quote today. That was by Nate Silver, The Signal and the Noise. Nate Silver wrote that. So I thought that was a pretty good one. I've got another one I want to share with you that goes way back in time. But I also want you to know that you can call 864-332-9355. That's 864-332-9355. We are live on Facebook at WCRS Radio, and we are live on the radio, and we're streaming, you know, in case you zip out of the area where you can hear us. So it's about 50 miles, depending on where the direction is coming from, that you can hear WCRS Radio. You can also kind of hate when that happens, when you got to sneeze, and you're live on Facebook and you're live on the radio. It's kind of difficult. Anyways, you can hear us streaming at WCRS1450am.net. If you miss any of the shows, of course, you can always go to our Facebook page for 30 days. But about a day later, all of them end up on our website at WCRS1450am.net. Lots of shows up there. It amazes me how many shows since we went back to doing this. But anyways, let's talk about a couple of things out there. One of the things that has happened is Governor Henry McMaster has actually done his last budget. That's right. I think it's his last. Well, it is his last budget. He of course will be. We will be electing a new governor in November. And then, of course, the new governor will take over in January of 2027. Can you believe this? God. Anyways, he has put forth a budget, and I thought we might just hit some of the highlights of the budget. He presented his executive budget, and that was yesterday, outlining his spending wish list. Isn't that interesting? Is that what we need? It's my wish list. No, anyways. For the next fiscal year, which begins July 1st, 2026 through July 30th, 2027. It is aspirational and aimed at strengthening key areas like education, infrastructure, conservation, and public safety. So some of the major funding themes: education, teacher pay increase. McMaster proposes using $150 million of surplus funds to raise the minimum starting teacher salary from the $48,000 to $50,500, part of a multi-year effort that they have been working on to improve recruitment and retention of educators. They are going to continue with the free breakfast for all public school students. He recommends $8.7 million annually to provide breakfast to every school student, regardless of income. Expand full-day 4K. The budget includes about $9.9 million to grow eligibility for full-day 4-year-old kindergarten. School choice scholarships. McMaster wants to expand funding for education scholarship accounts to support approximately 20,000 students and slightly raise award amounts. All of these sound good, but we'll have to see how the House and the Senate works with it. Number 2, infrastructure and roads. Road construction funding, about $1.1 billion from the surplus, would be set aside to keep road and bridge projects on schedule. Well, that is the question. How do they keep it on schedule? They can put all the money aside that they want, but if they don't have people to work it, that is the issue. They want to address rising construction costs and a backlog of projects. Well, that is true, but again, the problem, the backlog actually comes from not having enough workers, enough crews, enough companies that are out there doing it. Since all of it is not really, does not flow through the government, they simply pay for it, but we don't have government crews. Which sometimes you think about it, maybe they need to change that. Or how do they get caught up? That is the question. The problem with our roads in South Carolina is we had 20 some odd years of doing nothing, or very little. And so now it has come back. And although some of the projects they can move fast on, some of the things that have always been issues is getting projects approved. Now, I do think they have worked through to get more of that. But the bottom line is they want a road construction funding of additional, now this is additional money to what's already in the pipeline for them, $1.1 billion. A population growth study is also included to anticipate future infrastructure and service needs as South Carolina continues to grow. So there is another part of the budget. Number 3, tax and savings. You know, the word surplus keep coming through this budget. We don't have to spend all this money just because we have it. Now, why don't we work on this number 3, income tax rate reduction. McMaster proposes continuing tax cuts, lowering the state's income tax rate from 6.0 to 5.9 to keep more money in taxpayers' pockets. Let's not work too fast on this. Although one of the considerations is, when you take money out, there's 2 parts of this. Every year, our state has a lot more money coming in than what they anticipate. Okay? So, right there, are we looking at a budget? Should not your budget be able to be, or your tax rate, shouldn't it be made based on what you need? Not what it is. Oh, we've had this for 20 years. Oh, we got more people here. Well, we'll just spend more money. See, that is where I think the problem is. We can always find ways to spend money, can't we? And that, I think, is part of our problem. If we reduce the amount of money paid for core government functions, instead of thinking up things on how we can spend it, maybe that's the way it should work. What do you think? 864-332-9355. That is your way to get in on the conversation. Call that number or text that number. Leave your message and it converts it to a text. I love this because it does give me a way to communicate with you and let you know that I'm listening out there. So let's see. Oh, let's see. No, we can't have that. All right, so, but anyways, let me know what you are thinking about when you think about taxes, the budget, more people coming in, more people paying. So maybe it's just by a natural force of being able to be reduced. All right, so rainy day fund. The proposal includes setting aside $1.4 billion into the state's reserve rainy day fund to prepare for economic uncertainty. Well, I wanted to see what was in the rainy day fund. So and this resilience funding that he also wants. Resilience funding is money set aside to help communities prepare for, withstand, and recover from disaster, especially things like flooding, hurricanes, severe storms, rising water tables, failing drainage system. In South Carolina, this funding mainly goes towards making infrastructure stronger before disaster happens. So that was part of it, and the different things. Okay, so resiliency of McMaster wants to put a lot more money aside for that. But this rainy day fund I wanted to talk about first. The latest, here we go, current rainy day fund balances. South Carolina maintains more than one reserve account, all part of its rainy day fund. So they have the combined reserve funds, rainy day stabilization. According to the South Carolina House budget briefing, combined rainy day and stabilization funds total more than $1.2 billion. That's the general reserve, the budget stabilization fund, the capital reserve fund, other statutory reserve accounts set aside by law. So how do we stack up with other states? I think that's an interesting question. By law, a percentage of revenue, 5% for general fund and 2% for capital reserve, is set aside annually until funds reach a constitutional levels. In recent years, lawmakers and the governor have emphasized building these reserves, suggesting they want to maintain a strong cushion for future economic uncertainty. So, the reserve funds, $1.2 billion. These funds are separate from the regular budget and are held in reserve. Lawmakers and the government have expressed ongoing support for growing these reserves. I guess so. Sure, why not? But so I thought, I want to see how South Carolina stacks up compared with other states. South Carolina and versus other states. Rainy day funds, yes. National context. Across 50 states, rainy day funds vary dramatically in size and how long they could pay for government operations if relied on alone. Some states, believe it or not, could run a full year or more on savings, others for only a few days. Typical medium rainy day fund is around 7 to 12% of general fund expenditures. Some states, like Wyoming or Alaska, hold funds large enough to cover many weeks or months of spending, while others carry relatively minimal reserve. So how does South Carolina stack up? South Carolina's rainy day fund and stabilization funds have exceeded $1.2 billion in recent budgets, representing its primary cushion. Compared to large states like California, whose rainy day fund can exceed $70 billion, or in a state like Georgia with multi-billion rainy day reserves, South Carolina's total is modest in absolute terms, but still substantial for a mid-sized state. I just thought some of this stuff was interesting because we're always hearing, oh, we got to have a rainy day fund. And I thought, does anybody ever compare it to other states? The $1.2 billion is roughly 8 to 9% of the general fund total, placing it around the national median or slightly above typical states' percentages. So, that means that South Carolina's fund is fairly solid relative to the size of its general fund, not the largest in the nation, but not unusually small either. So, there you go. We have a lot of money in there. We are in good shape on that. So, I mean, basically, I think our state is in very good shape. Of course, the thing they want to work on, reducing the income tax. Now, some people have suggested that maybe we should do away with property tax. I say we should do away with property tax for seniors. I think that is, and John McCravey was a big proponent of that on last week on the air, that if you paid for your house for years, should you have to continue to pay for your house? I think, that's why a lot of seniors end up out of their house because they cannot afford the taxes. So I don't think that McMaster has called for doing anything about that. He really is more on reducing the property tax because on the surface, that's what other states are working on or have worked on and are seeing tremendous growth. I say, how much growth do we need in South Carolina? That's the only thing that kind of worries me as far as what we are gearing ourselves up for. I hearkened to the lady that went to county council. Who's coming? Why are we building all these houses? We don't have to become the state where everybody that wants to get out of the north has to come to the south. We don't have to be that state. We could keep it as a little secret, South Carolina is great. Do we really want to share it with everybody? No. Anyways, I think there's a happy balance between growth and this type of thing. And I think this constant worry about that South Carolina is going to get left behind. Maybe we want to be left behind. Let's talk about it. 864-332-9355. That's 864-332-9355. All right, so we were talking about reducing the taxes on income tax, and we were talking about the rainy day fund. Then we have McMaster has called for increased law enforcement staffing and pay and proposed a $2,000 state income tax credit for active law enforcement, firefighters, first responders, and EMTs. He also has asked for funding for the Department of Corrections, including money for staff pay raises, technology upgrades, new hires, and deferred maintenance. Oh, well, is this just on the state level, or what about our county here? Anyways, see, all these things, I'm going to make my point now. See, all these things that we need to increase is because South Carolina's becoming so popular. If we weren't so popular, we wouldn't have to be spending all this money. Think about it now. Come on. Work with me, Governor McMaster. Let's just not be so popular. There you go. All right, anyways, that's a joke. 864-332-9355. Who agrees with me here this morning? All right, workplace. Then we've got higher education and workforce training. Budget calls for freezing college tuition for in-state students again, supported by roughly $39.2 million in funding. A significant chunk, about $80 million, would go towards need-based financial aid through lottery funds with additional scholarship programs. The budget maintains roughly $95 million for workforce industry scholarship funds tied to technical colleges. So they want to keep that moving forward. I think that's a good thing. Conservation and natural resources. Proposed allocations include around $68 million for conservation efforts, flood mitigation, and preservation of culturally or environmentally significant lands. Okay. Well, we need that, and of course, last year I think they bought another significant piece of property down near the coast for conservation. And while these are McMaster's wish list, his recommendations, it's not a final budget. The legislature must review, amend, and approve. It reflects his priorities in education, tax relief, infrastructure, conservation, public safety, and workforce development. So the budget is now been put out there, so now that is one of the things that our House and Senate. And believe it or not, by the time the session ends in May, they will have a budget. Unlike our federal government that's still screwing around with it. And supposed to have it, I think, finished by, January 31st? Or, gosh darn it, we could have another shutdown. We will not be doing that in South Carolina. So it is interesting that McMaster did not address several issues. One of them is the pay for the legislatures. And he did not address the property tax one at all. He stayed away from those, and we'll have to see where that goes this session. So that's a little bit about some of the things that I think are interesting, things that we're going to watch. And then, of course, if that's all they had to do, wow, it'd be a piece of cake to get through this. But no, they'll be working on a lot of other things. And we highlighted a lot of those things with Senator Billy Garrett and with Representative John McCravey. And, of course, ding, bell starts today. And so now things will definitely change to what is happening on the state level. So that's a little bit about that here this morning. What time is it? I've got to be mindful this morning because I got to get Penny to her spa day. That's right. And she's already got her coat on. She's sitting there by the door saying, "Come on, Ann, get me to my spa day." Anyways, let's check this real quick and see what else is going on. Okay, 864-332-9355. Somebody just said that's not a bad idea, and why are we pushing South Carolina to be number one? Why don't we just hide under the radar and just kind of go along, and then everybody won't know what a great state we have? I know. All right, so that is one of the things I wanted to talk about. I did want to talk about, and I'm not going to have time. I was going to talk a little bit about Jerome Powell and the Fed here this morning. But the one thing, there's a lot more we could talk about on the budget. This resiliency fund is really something else, and maybe I'll spend a little bit of time on that tomorrow. But I did want to talk about the other day, President Trump just threw this out. I don't think it's really been picked up. And of course, the news cycle controls. We've got Minneapolis still on fire. I mean, there are protests all around the country. People are getting a little outrageous on what's happening. We need to tamp this back. And over in Iran, this is the next hotbed to see what is going to be happening there. Thousands are dying over there. President Trump has said that he is not going to have this. Supposedly, the Ayatollah has been in contact with the president. They want to talk. But it is occupying the news as the next place. Lindsey Graham is saying, oh, yeah, we need to go in. Hawkeye, Lindsey Graham, he's looking for a good fight for the military anywhere he can find one. I'm not sure that's where President Trump wants to go. I think he wants to tamp it back and save lives. That's been his mantra all across anything that he has worked on. All right, then we've got Venezuela down there. We've got Maduro in prison here. We've got ICE detentions. ICE, what is happening there? Real questions. It just seems to me like there's so much that we don't really get to concentrate or really drill down through something to talk about the issue. But in true Trumpian mode of operation, President Trump said the other day about lowering credit card interest to 10%. And I said to myself, wow, that's actually huge. But it hasn't received much play out there because there's so much else going on that right now it's just like a little a nugget that was thrown out there. So I decided that maybe we ought to talk about it a little bit. Number one, I find it very can they actually do this? Can they cap the interest rate on a credit card company? And what will that do to the credit card companies? Well, they say, it's not worth it. We're taking all our credit cards back. We'll give no credit cards to anybody. So I started thinking about where that would be. So Trump's proposal suggested that credit card interest rates should be capped at 10%. The idea is to reduce what many Americans pay in interest on revolving credit, especially for consumers with high interest cards. Trump and some allies argue that high credit card rates burden families, especially during tight economic times. A 10% cap would be significantly lower than the current rates, which often range from 15 to 25% and higher, depending on your credit score and market conditions. However, there's no federal law that's been passed, nor do I think anybody has introduced one to implement a 10% cap. It remains a policy proposal or talking point, not a legislative reality. So because of the suggestion, a lot of political implications, lawmakers have been weighing in with a range of views. Some consumer advocacy groups and a few lawmakers on both sides have said lowering interest rate could help reduce consumer debt burdens, protect financially vulnerable households, encourage more responsible lending practices. Critics have said many Republican lawmakers and free market proponents have raised concerns. Federal caps can reduce credit availability. I think that would be a big one. I think it would not be as easy to get credit. Maybe that's a good thing. I don't know. Lower limits may disproportionately hurt people with lower credit scores. It could push borrowers towards alternative, potential, riskier forms of credit. That's right, you are listening to WCRS Radio. At this point, no serious federal bill with a 10% cap has been adopted or advanced in Congress. What do you think? The possibilities of doing that when they can't even get a budget done or decide how they're going to deal with the insurance rates and insurance, Obamacare subsidies or whatever. What do you think? The possibility of something like that? Not real great. No serious federal bill with a 10% cap has been adopted or advanced in Congress. Legislative action would be required to change the law. But here's the credit card. What do you think? Credit card companies are going, leave us alone, please, do not mess with us. Major credit card companies, banks, and industry groups have pushed back against the idea. Credit card rates reflect borrowers' risk. Higher costs for riskier borrowers help lenders offer credit that might otherwise be unavailable. Cost of funds and operation. Interest rates cover the cost of capital and expenses that banks incur. A strict 10% cap may make some cards unprofitable and reduce lending. That's what I think. Let me, Ann Eller, give me that credit card back. No, I must keep my card. No, give us your card back. Alternatives could shrink. Capping rates could push issuers to tighten credit eligibility or reduce rewards and benefits on cards. You know, how many people have credit cards because of the perceived value that they get from their rewards? So organizations like American Bankers Association and Consumer Bankers Association have stated that artificial caps on rates could limit consumer choice. And card issuers such as Visa, MasterCard, and major banks have warned that arbitrary rate caps may lead to them to reduce credit lines or raise fees. See, this thing with fees, raise fees to compensate. What is a fee? It's a tax. It's an interest rate. It's the same thing. So far, there haven't been any legal challenges over the proposal itself. It's still in the realm of public policy. So I just thought that Trump suggested the 10% cap as a consumer-friendly idea. No legislation has passed. Many consumer advocates support the concept in theory, but many economists and industry groups oppose it in practice. The credit card industry argues a hard cap could reduce credit availability, raise funds, and tighten lending standards. So I just wanted to bring this one up. Watch for this to see how far Trump tries to push this one. If you'll notice, back in January of last year, he suggested, or January, February, that Greenland should become part of the United States. I still like his idea. I still think that his idea, when people were concerned what we would do about the flag since there's only room for 50 stars, and if you got Greenland, would you make it a state or would it remain a territory? Well, there was talk of making it a state. If it became a state, we'd have to boot out one of the states. And New Mexico could go back to Mexico. So there you go. That was the answer. But my point is, this has been something that President Trump, Greenwood, threw out back January, February of last year. It's now continuing to amp up, and it has become, instead of a pie in the sky, that's just President Trump talking, to something that has evolved into something quite real. Now, whether Europe takes over with Greenland, but the idea, you've got to give Trump credit, that how important Greenland can be to our security has certainly become a bigger issue. So watch for this one on the credit cards. It may take him a year, but probably a year from now we'll be saying, that was just an idea. And look at it now. All right, I'm Ann Eller right here with you this morning. We are we are right here. They just gavelled in. The House and the Senate are just getting ready to rumble. It'll be interesting to finish my conversation on the 10%. Is this a pie in the sky thing, or is this something that a year from now we'll be saying, I never thought that would happen? All right, so that's that issue. Now, they just have gavelled in, I guess, the House and the Senate, so they are getting ready to rumble. It'll be an interesting year to see. Last year, in my opinion, was a horrible year for the House and the Senate. They had the majority. The Republicans had the majority, but they certainly did not move the needle forward, get a lot of things done, et cetera, et cetera. So it'll be interesting to see if they can put aside some of their bickering, power-hungry differences and actually get stuff done this year. That's to me what will be most to watch. So that's and how quickly they are going to move, and what also will be important about what bills come out of committee. Now, the thing about our House and Senate, it's a 2-year term. So the bills that were hanging out last year at the end of the session potentially can come through, plus new bills will be being proposed too. And of course, the budget is the big thing that they also have to deal with. All right. So in closing, I had a little quote here. Yes, I kind of have gotten into quote. Oh, wait, this says, okay, this just came through. The Clintons refused to testify in the Epstein inquiry. That was supposed to happen this week, I believe. And so let's just quickly and check this out. Yep. Facing contempt threat. Clintons refused to testify in Epstein inquiry. The couple denounced the efforts by Representative James Cromer, the chairman of the Oversight Committee, to force them to appear, setting the stage for a legal battle. Yes, there you go. Just out of here. Bill and Hillary refused Tuesday to testify in the House Jeffrey Epstein investigation, escalating a month-long battle with Representative James R. Comer, Republican of Kentucky, and effectively daring him to follow through on his threats to hold them in contempt of Congress. Every person has to decide when they have seen or had enough and are ready to fight for this country, its principles, and its people, no matter the consequences, the Clintons wrote in a lengthy letter to Mr. Comer, which was obtained by the New York Times. For us, that time is now. Mr. Comer's relentless efforts to force them to testify reflect his overall approach to his panel's Epstein inquiry. As the chairman of the House Oversight Committee, Mr. Comer has sought to shift the focus from President Trump's ties to the convicted sex offender and his administration's decision to close its investigation. Instead, he has sought to shift the spotlight onto prominent Democrats who once associated with Mr. Epstein and his longtime companion, Ghislaine Maxwell. So Mr. Comer has repeatedly threatened to hold the Clintons in contempt if they fail to appear for live depositions behind closed doors, typically a first step in referring someone to the Justice Department for prosecution. So he had set a deadline of Tuesday for Mr. Clinton to appear and Wednesday for Mrs. Clinton. But hours before the deadline, the Clintons made it clear they had no intention of presenting themselves on Capitol Hill to be questioned by Mr. Comer and the members of his committee. They did so by submitting an 8-page legal letter laying out why they considered the subpoenas invalid and legally unenforceable, and followed up with a scorching missive that they signed jointly, promising to fight Mr. Comer on the issue for as long as it took. All right. Well, there you go. That'll be interesting to keep up on. Get your popcorn. That's going to be another one. Like we really care at this point. But I don't understand. Why didn't they just go to court and not answer anything? That's the easiest way out. Just say you're invoking the fifth, and you're not going to say anything because it might incriminate you. Just don't say anything and sit there for 5 hours or whatever hours. Don't give them anything. This just ramps it up even more. All right, I had a quote I wanted to... That looks pretty interesting, though. I did have a quote I wanted to share with you this morning. Let's see if I can get back to it. No, not that one. Oh, did it fade away? Oh, Lord. It was a good one. Oh, well. Okay, looks like I must have caught that one right before it faded away on me. I should have shared that so I would have it. It said basically that suffering is the human condition. I'll have to see if I can find that one. And that we have to just kind of trudge on. I thought it was appropriate as we keep moving forward here. Let me see if maybe it just slid down to the bottom here. Oh, well. I guess it's gone. It's gone. I thought it was a new one from today. I get all these things and then they disappear, you know. So anyways, yes, the human condition is to suffer. The human condition is to suffer, and trying to remain positive and not sinking into the morass is what we have to try to do, which is why I do the I Love Ann show, because, you know, you just have to look at this stuff and try to find a way to make it through, right? Hey, don't forget to tune in this afternoon on Meet Me at the Diner. My very special guest will be Karen Petit and Stephanie Bowen of the Issaquena chapter of the DAR. We're going to be talking Tea Party, and maybe a little history, but we're going to be talking a lot about all the things that are going on at the Tea Party, which is happening on January 24th. It is an event. This will be their second time of doing it. First one was a real success. I know they're looking forward to this one too, so make sure you tune in at 5 o'clock today. Tomorrow on Meet Me at the Diner, as I said, we're going to have Carrie Hoffman. She is the president and CEO of the Greenwood Promise. Looking forward to sitting down with her. And finally, on Thursday, we're going to lighten it up with some humor with Michael Howcom. He is going to be here for a Greenwood Performing Arts event that you can get tickets for. That event is Comedy and Cocktails or Mocktails is going to be at the Greenwood Country Club. It will also be on January 20th. It will be on January 23rd on a Friday night. So check all this out. Tune in with us. And remember, you can always go back and watch things on WCRS 1450am.net. If you miss it, go back and watch it right there. Hey, I'm Ann Eller, out of time. Got to take Penny for her spa day. She's such a lucky child. And I know it. That's going to do it for us. This is WCRS right here in Greenwood. Drop the curtain, Ann. Don't drop the mic. Drop the curtain. And y'all have a great day. This is WCRS Radio. Take it away.